Yeah, welcome in. Welcome back to another episode of the Format Podcast Live. Yes. Thank you for the applause. I appreciate that. Nah, but seriously, we got a heck of a show lined up for you today. Obviously, you can see from the rundown, we're gonna talk some boxing, but it's that second topic that kind of has the sports world like ablaze right now. And so we're gonna dig into that. Got some good commentary on it. Yeah, we're really gonna get into that. Obviously, Caitlin Clark and Indiana Fever, they're on a hot streak, and they got a huge game tomorrow against Angel Reese in the Chicago Sky. That should be big. And of course, we're going to finish up with some NFL talk because, I got to talk some football, and Dak Prescott is going to be what it is. So before we get to that, you know what time it is. If you're here on YouTube and you haven't already, please make sure you go ahead, click that like, that subscribe, that notification bell. Make sure you're kept up to date whenever we drop new content on the channel. If you want the audio only version of the podcast, open up your audio podcast platform, hit the search bar, type in The Format Podcast, and we should come right up. If you're enjoying the content, make sure you give us that like, that 5-star review, and drop a comment. All that stuff helps us rise in the algorithm, helps us find more sports fans, helps more sports fans find us. And finally, make sure you write it down, put it in your phone, set an alarm, do whatever you got to do to remember. Saturday nights at 7 p.m. we are live here on the Format Podcast, and we'll give you the opportunity to call in, talk to us, get at me. I love it. I can't wait. All right, so we know year in, year out for probably the past what is this, 2024, almost 10 years now, I guess. The argument, the discussion, one of the major topics in sports and of course in the NBA has been this so-called GOAT debate. I say so-called, I put it in quotation marks because I don't believe there is a debate. Michael Jordan is the GOAT, plain and simple. That's that, for a variety of reasons I've detailed on this channel many times. But this isn't about that. Not necessarily. So what we got here? Sneed, what's good, my man? How you doing, bro? Yeah, you checked in right at the right time. We about to get to it. Hot topic here. So we know that based on what we've heard, unfortunately, there's some plants in the sports media, guys who have made it clear openly that they're with Clutch Sports, Nick Wright, and then you hear other guys who the stuff that they say is just absurd, i.e. your Shannon Sharps, and then some of these guys come around, like Kendrick Perkins, he just recently came around. So you got that. But the LeBron James and Michael Jordan thing is going to go on and on and on, and a big part of it is generational, a big part of it. And the sports media, unfortunately, you're seeing they control a lot of the narrative that comes out of that discussion, right? Because if you talk to a lot of the younger fans or the target demographic of the modern NBA, guys who didn't actually see Michael Jordan play, and they're telling you LeBron James is a GOAT, well, that's fine that's their opinion. Okay, cool. That's their opinion. But what you're hearing is they're parroting so many of the quote unquote talking points that you hear from guys like your Nick Wrights and your Shannon Sharps, like almost verbatim, right? So one of the things that I've always gotten like really pushed on is when it comes to LeBron arguing for being the greatest of all time. First of all, it was ridiculous that he had to tell us he was the greatest of all time. If he was, we would have known, but that's fine, whatever. But one of my biggest arguments is, why is it that when LeBron fans tell you he's the greatest of all time, that his own work can't stand by itself? What do I mean by that? His body of work, his career, and I always say it, he's had an all-time great career, but he's not the greatest player, in my estimation. But his body of work, to me, can never stand by itself, because what you always see and hear are the attempts of LeBron's fans and the pro-LeBron media to disrespect Jordan. What do I mean by that? They disrespect his competition. They tell you the plumbers and firemen nonsense, and they tell you Jordan couldn't do this, Jordan couldn't do that, like the nonsense, oh, Jordan couldn't go left. And well, we refuted that right here on this show, but it's also nonsense. That tells you they never watched the dude play. And then they talk about, oh, he never played any good teams in the finals, all this type of nonsense, right? And they find all these different reasons, all these different ways to try and denigrate Michael Jordan, instead of just saying LeBron is this, look at him and you'll know that he's the GOAT. The same way we can look at Michael Jordan, see what he did, and know that he's the GOAT, right? Then they start throwing stat after stat after stat at you, right? As if you can compare stats across eras without context, just like that. Well, LeBron James is the all-time leading scorer in the history of basketball. He absolutely is, and that is a phenomenal accomplishment. A phenomenal accomplishment. I'm not being facetious when I say that. It really is. To think about someone averaging 27 points a game over the course of a 22-year career, and what is it? 20 straight years over 25 a game. G, I think that's what it was. I
Yeah,
mean, that's crazy,
absolutely.
right? That it really is. But then you start adding in context. And it's like, well, there's this and there's that, and there's this and there's that. The game got played differently and the rules changed and blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. This is not about that. This is not to take shots at that. So, anyway, where am I going with all this? So, recently we heard um Tom, let's see. Irony, LeBron is overtly cheating and the paid media sycophants for him. They're denigrating MJ's accomplishments to build up LeBron. This is insultingly absurd. Oh, it is. And it's going to get worse. It's not that serious. It's going to get worse. But so the reason I'm bringing this up is because I think 2 days ago, uh Tom Haberstroh, I think he used to work for ESPN. He now writes for Yahoo Sports and he has his own Substack. He wrote a 6,000 word article. Crazy, right? And basically, what he's doing, as you can see by the thumbnail and by the title of this show, is he is attempting to tell us that Michael Jordan's 1988 MVP season is phony, and he's utilizing that with the help of a guy that we're going to hear from shortly. He's utilizing that to basically take a shot at Jordan, which not inadvertently, I guess, which ends up propping up LeBron. So before I even get to the very first clip we're going to use from, of course, Nick Wright, #1 media plant and open clutch client. I've been talking about this for a minute here to start off this segment. Give me some of your thoughts on what you thought when you first heard about this and what I believe they're trying to do. I can't put words in your mouth, but what I believe they're trying to do. Where are you on this, man?
So initially, I thought it was just bogus, or I thought it was fake news. I'm like, what? Somebody digging up the archives
Mm-hmm.
to see if he was Defensive Player of the Year from 1998, and I was like, wow. Well, what would make somebody want
Idiot.
to dig up the stats for just him winning the Defensive Player
Mm-hmm.
award, right? Like, and I thought about it. I'm like, all right, well, I just watched this little media take where LeBron was talking about how he felt like he was snubbed for Defensive Player award, and that
Mm-hmm.
he came in second, but the guy that came in first wasn't even on the All Defense first team or something like that.
Yeah,
And then
Marcus.
I was like, yeah, and I was like, well, okay, all right, well, maybe this is just I kind of fell into the whole LeBron era, MJ era, the GOAT debate. And I
Mm-hmm.
thought about it. I was like, well, maybe this is some form of like counter information operations where, the last couple of weeks, this guy was like really getting dragged by the media. And so to
Mm.
change the tides and kind of build, because it's all a narrative at this point, right?
Yeah.
It's all about spinning a narrative. And so you've been taking a hit lately in the media. And so this could be one of those things where, hey, let's start digging up people stats. Like
Mm-hmm.
I said this before. I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe we should start, you know, auditing
Yeah.
these stats, right? Because it could go either way, but at the same time, it's like once it's said and done, maybe there should be a little bit more emphasis on fact checking before these stats are actually published,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe somebody should do that, and then, and even if he did, like let's say for instance they did give him a few stats, that's not to say that doesn't happen all the time, right? Like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm sure it does. I mean, playing ball myself, you can tell like sometimes they give other people, steals, rebounds, or whatever. Like as long as you want to even points sometimes, right? And so, um, yeah, not to draw it out any longer because I know we got some B roll to go through, but I just felt like it was why now, right? Like why now? It's 1998. Like why
Yeah.
now? You
88.
know,
88.
88.
So
Oh yeah, that's crazy work.
so here's the thing, right? And I'm with you 1,000% on that. What kind of gets me, and we'll get to the B-roll. We got some time here. We got to give this the attention it so richly deserves. But I think a big part of it is this, right? So we see Sneed here saying, thanks for the comment, Sneed. A lot of people claim home team stat keepers were padding their guys' numbers across the league, meaning it wouldn't be an MJ specific problem. If all are doing it, then why are they trying to discredit MJ? And so that gets to, I think, the biggest point here, right? Because that season that Michael Jordan had in 1988, that season was mythical. It was legendary because one, Michael Jordan is the only player in NBA history to ever be defensive player of the year while still averaging 30 points a game, right? So that's crazy. You never see anybody lead the league in scoring but still be defensive player of the year. That speaks to a level of physical and mental toughness because you know how hard it is to really lock in on the defensive end, but to still be able to be the leading offensive player in the league, like the amount of energy that would take is phenomenal. That doesn't even make sense, right? And so we have that. And then what happens is one of the things in the GOAT debate, a lot of people like to throw out there. And it's funny because this is something I never even mentioned when they start racking up and talking about accomplishments. A lot of people will say, well, Michael Jordan has a defensive player of the year. I know Stephen A. Smith said it, and they'll say LeBron James does not have a defensive player of the year. My argument is more so Michael Jordan was 9-time All-NBA first team, LeBron James 5-time All-NBA first team. And I don't even think he deserved that. But he got that. So that's it, right? If that's fine. He's 5-time All-NBA defensive first team. Michael Jordan is 9. So I never even really bring up the defensive player of the year, but that I think is why this thing is in attack mode, right? So here's the thing. Jay Strong was good. I think you're new here, bro. I haven't seen you before. Go ahead and do me a favor, click that like button for me. Matter of fact, everybody listening, please click the like button. This whole thing against Jordan is definition of a bad faith argument. It is, but we're gonna get to it because apparently they did some legitimate research on it. So anyway, here's my problem, right? Here's my problem. Well, first, let's take a look because Jordan was an absolute terror on the defensive end. So it's funny because for years I actually pushed back against this argument. You hear a lot of people who are on the LeBron camp, oh, all Michael Jordan did was score. But if you actually watch this dude, and see, that's the problem. A lot of people saying things didn't actually go back and watch. Like we saw all this in real time as well. We've gone back and watched, right? Because we know what it was. And to some extent, our nostalgia says we want to go back and see some more. Michael Jordan was just an absolute freak, right? And so he was hell defensively, right? He was strong enough to defend 1 through 3, sometimes 4 if it was a smaller 4. He was explosive and athletic enough until Dwayne Wade broke it, and it took him longer. He was the all-time leading shot blocker among guards. Like Michael Jordan, when he was young, was crazy blocking shots. And obviously, he was a thief as well. You see, he was an elite help side defender, and he was always able. The crazy thing, he was an elite help side defender, but he was also able to always get back to his original assignment. And that is insane, right? So we're going to hear them talk about how the steals numbers specifically were juiced up. And before we do that, let me just read. I looked up what is a steal as defined by the NBA rulebook. And it says in the NBA, a steal is recorded when a player intercepts a pass, legally takes the ball away from an opponent, or otherwise obtains possession of the ball following an opponent's turnover as long as the clock hasn't stopped and the ball remains in bounds. Essentially, it's a defensive play where the defender gains control of the ball from the opposing team. This can happen through intercepting a pass, knocking the ball away, or capitalizing on an opponent's mishandling of the ball. So the problem is a lot of this stuff becomes what's the word? It becomes subjective, right? And so it's like now you got a situation where maybe one guy says, oh, it's this one referee in Kansas, I'm just picking a random place, says that's a steal, and another referee in New York says no, it's not a steal, right? And so yeah, no, absolutely, cat quick on offense and defense, you're absolutely right. Jordan specifically spoke to his defensive tenacity that year. He said after 87, he was so focused on proving people wrong about his defense, he was hunting steals. Yeah, I heard him say that. And here's the other thing that we also don't forget, right? Jordan was an extremely sound fundamental player, defensively and offensively. Why? Because Dean Smith wouldn't let him loose, right? He spent 3 years in college at UNC with Dean Smith, learning the fundamentals, doing it the right way. So this is not a guy that's out there just wilding, running around. But let's go ahead and we'll start with the clips. And the first one I want to play is from Nick Wright. And Okay, I'm not going to say what I'm thinking, but you know that he was very excited to talk to us about this. So let's hear the first clip and then we'll come back and talk about it a little bit.
Get the Pulitzer Prize ready. Oh my goodness, Tom Haberstroh. Yahoo Sports, a 6,000 word opus with firsthand video evidence of something we've also always suspected, but Tom has blown the lid off it. Michael Jordan's 1988 Defensive Player of the Year award, fugazi, fraudulent, inflated stats. How about this from Haberstroh on Yahoo Sports? Just dropped. So Michael Jordan recorded the largest home road splits in Defensive Player of the Year history. So what does that mean? So Michael Jordan, that year that he was chasing the Defensive Player of the Year award on the road, when there was seemingly, a neutral scorekeeper, he averaged 3 steals and blocks a game, or per 36 minute stocks. But at home, those numbers jumped to 5.5. Now, was he just better at home than on the road? Is that common? I don't know. It's a difference of 182%. Say it again, DeMonte.
How many ass stocks was he getting?
Oh, I don't know how many ass stocks, but this is just Defensive Player of the Year, so it's just the stocks, just steals and blocks. Tom Haberstroh got full game footage. How about this? Full game footage where he could watch and track every single play of 6 Jordan home games in 1988. The game film in those 6 games, Michael Jordan had 12 steals. The home box score, how many extra steals could they have given him? 2, 3? He had 12. The box score, 28. There was a game where they credited Michael Jordan with more steals than the other team had turnovers. Might put a little different hue on the old GOAT conversation. Everyone should read it. It just dropped. It is Sports Pulitzer, Tom Haberstroh. This is you know what I call this? Real journalism. What a legend Haberstroh is. I haven't read it, but you might say, Nick, if you haven't read it and it just dropped a few minutes ago, how do you have all this info? I might have been aware that something like this was coming. I might have been behind the scenes consulting on the project. I don't know. Yeah. I'm just here for a fair and accurate reading of NBA history. That's all I want. That's all I've ever wanted.
So it seems to me he only wants a quote unquote fair and accurate reading of NBA history when it helps his guy LeBron in this ridiculous argument. So G, before I pass it over to you, because I know you got some thoughts on that. First, I didn't mention this earlier. One of the things that got this whole thing started was maybe a year or two ago, we heard a guy who was an NBA statistician, and he was talking about Utah and how guys were cooking the books for stats for John Stockton for assist numbers, right? And so if that's the case, let's say that's the case. Let's say, okay, Nick Wright is cool. Why is it that no one made a big deal about this and went and wrote a 6,000 word article digging into the stats with John Stockton? If that's the case, why is it Mark Eaton, who one season averaged 5.7 blocks per game, 5.6, which is still an NBA record to this day, right? Why did no one go check that out? Why? Because they're doing what we know they're trying to do. They are trying their damnedest to break down Michael Jordan's legacy, but it's not going to work. Yeah, Jay Strong, that's the thing. So what they're doing, I think how they believe is going to change the GOAT conversation is because a lot of people say, well, Michael Jordan has the Defensive Player of the Year. LeBron never got one. That's what I think. AOH has a myriad of footage. He sure does. Listen, if y'all like legitimate basketball stuff and a lot of facts, well, if you're a LeBron fan, you're not going to like it. But Angry Old Hoops fan got some stuff, man. He will rip your boy. Sneed, we're definitely doing call-ins tonight. After this segment, we're going to call. Jay Strong, great point. Of course, the Defensive Player of the Year was not the only thing that made Jordan the GOAT all this time. But what they're trying to do is they're doing everything they can to put chinks in the armor any way they can, whether it's BS or not, right? Now, they're going to come, and you're going to hear it later. They're going to really try to explain away all the research that they did and all of that to try and come up with this stuff. And it should be interesting. It's a longer clip, and we'll play it. But before we get to all that, G, I know I'm running off at the mouth here. This is a topic that got me super excited, man. But Where are you with all this so far?
I think if you're going to make a fair assessment, then you should audit the entire 82 games and not just the home stats, because it could fall into one of those situations where, maybe they wasn't being fair when he was away, and it's slighting him, and that's just, might have been common practice. I don't believe this is going to stop him from, continuing to being a GOAT. Like that's, this is more than it's more to the story than just, points and stats, right? Like the impact that this man had on the game in itself, right? Is we've never seen that before.
Right.
The love he got from people leaving, like the older cats that came in before him, right? Like, and even, how these younger athletes or younger basketball players or superstars, I should say, how they embrace him when they see him when he walk into on the room. And so that speaks, man, it's no way that you can kind of look at MJ and say, oh, well, he's not the GOAT because of one defensive player of the year award, right? Like that I'm sure he earned, right? But let's say, for instance, we go back and we start auditing everybody's stats. And then what point does that make? Like, that's not Michael Jordan's fault that, that the people not doing the job that they supposed to do. That's not his fault. And so he shouldn't be held accountable. His legacy shouldn't be held accountable. And the fact that people's just digging in MJ's stats is crazy, man. Like, it's unheard of. But I guess there's an agenda there as well. There has to be an agenda all
you
time.
don't say.
And so,
I think the point is, it's like you find that chink, right? And then you start hitting it more and more. And then it's like, you watch Kung Fu movies, G?
Absolutely.
Like the old school ones? Remember Five Deadly Venoms, right? For those of y'all who don't watch Kung Fu movies, bear with me. So there was this guy, he practiced, great movie, all-time classic. He practiced the Toad style, and he had an invincible skin. Like, you could try to stab him and the sword would bend or whatever, and he had an invincible skin. He only had one weak spot, but once you found that weak spot, his invincible skin was punctured. And so I make that reference because I believe this is what Nick Wright and Clutch Sports and LeBron James are trying so desperately to do, is find that weak spot in Michael Jordan's invincible skin, like the Toad, right? If you listen to the Mystery of Chess Boxing on the first Wu-Tang album, I know I'm dating myself, that's from like 93, but on the first, that song, it's number 6 on the album. They actually use a sample from the Five Deadly Venoms talking about the Toad style on the intro to that song, The Mystery of Chess Boxing. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is they're trying to find Michael Jordan's weak spot to do away with his invincible skin, and they can't do it. They're trying desperately. And again, it keeps going back to the same thing. If LeBron is so far and away superior, like the LeBron fans want me to believe and want you to believe, and Clutch Sports wants you to believe, why do they have to try so hard? Why? Nino, what's good, bro? Good to see you. I blame MJ fans for this. Now that's interesting. You're gonna call in and you're gonna tell us about that. I can't wait to hear from you. I think I see where you're going, but I'm gonna let you tell it. But so now we see they did all this research and they went back and blah blah blah. And that's a great point, G, that they really should have done all 82 games, but they're not going to. And they're probably going to make the excuse that they can't find the footage from all those games, when I'm sure they could just, I guarantee that beyond a certain point, I'm sure the NBA has every game, right? I'm sure they can, they can get into that library. But anyway, what we're going to do now, and this clip is about 5.5 minutes. It's from a really good segment on The Odd Couple the other night. Normally that's Chris Broussard and Rob Parker on Fox Sports Radio every weeknight, but Rob Parker was out covering some baseball stuff. So Ephraim Salaam, former NFL offensive lineman and Fox Sports Radio guy, he was in for Rob Parker, and they actually had Tom Haberstroh, the author of the article, on the show, and he was breaking down some of this stuff. It was like a 30-minute segment, so obviously I couldn't play all of it for you, but I got about 5 good minutes of it, and just sit back and listen to that, and we're gonna get back and we're gonna talk about that. All right, so here we go.
This is the LeBron is the GOAT camp is putting your article in frames and putting it on their wall. I'll tell you that.
Well, it is something that I was cognizant of as I was reporting, is that LeBron James has been talking pretty much every year of his career about how he's never won Defensive Player of the Year, and he's really wanted to. And he took issue with Marc Gasol winning Defensive Player of the Year and finishing in the second team all defense. And it's something he's talked about on the shop. And I knew that Michael Jordan's Defensive Player of the Year award, just covering the league for as long as I have, it's one of the most consequential, if not the most consequential, Defensive Player of the Year awards in NBA history because it sets him apart. It is his crown jewel in a sense compared to Magic, compared to Kareem, compared to LeBron. They don't have that on their resume. And so I always knew that it was a very special award. Rudy Gobert has a Defensive Player of the Year. Like, it's not necessarily the Defensive Player of the Year is held in such high esteem. It's that it's a differentiator in the greatest of all time conversation. So when I had heard that there was a 1990s NBA statistician that was admitting to cooking the books and greasing stats, I said, what year would have the most disparity between home blocks and home steals and the road? And I wanted to just research this objectively. And that's when it happened, guys. I researched it, and the guy that came on the top of that list was Michael Jeffrey Jordan, and I could not believe it.
Yeah, that's incredible.
Okay, so let me ask you this. And Chris and I were talking about this earlier. Let's just say you take Michael Jordan's Defensive Player of the Year award away from him, right? You move all of his trophies out of the way on the trophy case, and you pluck that thing out of there. And then you pack all the rest of the stuff back in there. He still was first team all defense there, right, that year, correct?
Sure, he was. Yep.
In the games you watched, Tom, did you feel like his defense was not nearly as good as advertised? Because we know steals don't just, that's not the measure of great defense. So what'd you think of his defense overall?
He was an amazing defensive player when he gambled, and it was successful. It was great. I mean, he was the best athlete by far. It was like he was transported from another planet, this guy, when you're watching him. Remember, this is his fourth year in the league. He's 24, 25 years old, and he's just sensational. This guy was by far the best athlete. I remember watching a game, two of them, when he was playing the Hawks, and you almost forgot that Dominique Wilkins was on the floor. That's how magnificent he was on both ends of the floor. But the problem was, and Pat Riley talked about this in the papers, and I actually quoted it for my story, he was a very different defensive player than Michael Cooper, and very different than your standard guard, because he gambled so much. He was a guy that, he bet that he was going to get back to his man in time. If you made the pass to the open man, he was going to cheat off you and double and swipe and try to block your shot. And a lot of times it works, and a lot of times it compromised the defense. And I think, we've talked about it, with whether his teammates, whether it's, Charles Oakley was out there, Horace Grant, Scottie Pippen, John Paxson, they were all out there, and they were doing great defense too. But Michael was so much more athletic than everybody. And the thing was, I didn't want to take away from his defense in general. He was a good defender, but in terms of whether he got that many steals and got that many blocks, when I watched the film, I didn't see it. And another researcher that watched the games too, he would have 1 or 2 steals a game, but it wasn't 5, 6. And at times he had as many as 10 that season. And of course, when you go and look at I know it's great, 10 in a game. When you go and you look at the NBA official video, when they do the highlight clip of his 10 steals, they only show 6 of them. And that was when I was like, wait a minute, what's going on here? And so that's what led me down this path.
So even 6 steals is my point being that whether they cooked the books or not, and it was like in the article, it was a common thing. That's just what was going on. But just watching him play both sides of the ball, they didn't cook the books when he was scoring 35 a game, but just his presence and playing both sides of the ball, his energy, to me, doesn't negate that award, because to me, playing defense, like we were talking about, is bigger than the steals, is bigger than the blocks. It's about your presence out there and what you can take away from the opposing team when they need it the most.
All right, G. I got a lot, but you first, man. I definitely want to hear what you got on this.
I mean, I mean, they couldn't put it any better, right? Like steals don't necessarily make you. It's the reason why you always win Defensive Player award. And
Mm-hmm.
the fact that he pointed out that in the games that he did watch, he noticed that he was still a supreme player, right? A supreme player compared to everyone else. I don't think the patent, the stats. I mean, when you travel, your stats sometimes your stats aren't what they're supposed to be. So maybe they just did their due diligence. I'm still gonna stand by that. I don't think none of this super research that they're doing is the test pool is muddy, right? Like 6 games, 6 out of what 41 home games. I think we
6
talked.
out of 41 home games. That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
14%.
So that test pool is tainted.
Correct.
Yeah,
Like,
it's tainted.
come on, you get it done. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just for sound bites, man. That doesn't change anything. But again, I mean, you're an excellent researcher there, because I had no idea that there was like a wave until I watched and this recently came across my feeds. It was like LeBron, talking about the only thing that he wish he would have gotten is his career was defensive year, defensive player of the year award. And the year that he did came in second. The
Mm-hmm.
player only didn't make the first team. And I keep saying that because it was right after that this article kind of came out, almost as if it was put in play, man. Like I don't know. This is weird. Weird basketball stuff right here, man. Getting in the weeds.
Well, I think LeBron said that a while ago, but I think that might have been what kind of got Nick Wright going on this, because this looks like an article that took plenty of time to research and to write. Again, 6,000 words, and supposedly finding the tape and all that. But to your point, I'm sorry I cut you off, man. I didn't even mean to. My bad, guy.
Oh, the only other point I was saying is like outside of everything, this is probably the only thing that they can debate, right? The only thing that they can kind of try to devalue, right? They can't take the 6-0 from him, right? In the finals, can't take the MVPs from him, right?
Nope.
So it's like
They're gonna try that next.
This is the only thing that you can debate, man. It's almost like I don't know, man. The kid that takes the ball and go in the house when everybody's still hooping, like in the middle of the game, is kind of giving that same like snowflake vibe, man. So good topic though. I think it's a great topic.
Yeah, man. But so this is where again I give LeBron a lot of credit. I think he's so smart in the way that he knows that just about everything that he says can be turned into major publicity, right? So now people are going to go back and look at him further and say, should he have gotten Defensive Player of the Year? That's going to be the next topic, right? Should he have been Defensive Player of the Year that year that Marc Gasol won it? Snead, I don't know how many total he made. I know Michael Jordan made 9 first teams, so I don't know how many total he won. I'm sure there's probably some second teams in there a little later when he got older, but I know he made 9 All-NBA defensive first teams. Yeah, so my bad, I'm throwing these up here. These guys arguing in there. But yeah, so you're looking at this thing and you're saying, man, LeBron is so smart in the way he knows exactly what to say and how to say it, because it's eventually going to work in his favor to some extent, right? All right, so we heard some things in the clips, and Haberstroh was talking about something that never happened since Defensive Player of the Year was awarded, and what did he say? Kareem, Magic, blah blah blah, right? So again, being a little disingenuous, right? Because first, we know Magic, although he led the league in steals 3 times, he was not known as an elite defender, right? So the difference with Michael Jordan is, again, watching him, not just looking at box scores, but actually watching him. And this is the thing that drives me nuts. Even though they said they watched 6 full games, did they really watch it? They were watching to count steals and blocks, right? But you got to watch him. Like, we know this dude was an absolute terror as a defender on the ball, in passing lanes, in space, on the help side. He was a terror. He could lock guys up. So it's not just you're watching it for, the express purpose of counting to see if if the numbers are correct versus the box score, watch to see what's being done. And clearly they didn't do that. But cool. So the only guy that he mentioned that possibly could have won a Defensive Player of the Year would have been Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, correct? The Defensive Player of the Year was not even instituted as an NBA award until 1982-83 season, by which point Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was already in the league. I want to say, when did he retire? 1989. So he'd already been in the league 13 years before that. So he was on the back end, if not out of his athletic prime already. So the time that he would what's going on? All right, G2 for these. I don't know you. You're new to the channel. Appreciate it. Make sure you hit that like and that share button. I appreciate it. Matter of fact, everybody, if you haven't hit the like or the share button, please, you know what I'm saying? Make sure you do that. Yeah, it's not that serious. Man Down Sports definitely did destroy this topic. He did a great job with it. But I'm gonna do my thing too. Yeah, so where were we? So yeah, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, he would have been on the back end of his prime and or out of his prime, 13 years in the league already. You don't see guys that are in the league that long win Defensive Player of the Year. You just don't. So again, kind of disingenuous by Haberstroh. This is why I get frustrated, because these people know exactly what they're doing, right? So the next topic. So he says when he found that out, he wanted to do the research objectively. He's lying. He's lying. And how can I tell you he's lying? He says he wanted to do the research objectively, but Nick Wright admitted, and Nick Wright, we know, who's a clutch agent, right? And he's a known LeBron guy in the media. He's the one that admitted that he was behind it all. So how could Haberstroh be saying that he wanted to do the research objectively when you have an extremely biased individual behind the whole enterprise? So there's that. All right. Next point, G brought it up. They only did 6 games out of 41 home games. That's 14%. How is that a proper sample size? How is that a proper sample size? Listen, I didn't do so great in statistics. I think I got a B. I don't know how I pulled that off. I don't remember anything about statistics, but I'm pretty sure 14% of a total is not a viable sample size. If you're doing any type of if you're doing any type of legitimate survey or anything or study, 14% is not a viable sample size. It's not good enough. Okay, next. Remember I told you guys I'm a communication grad, right? Communications with a concentration in multimedia journalism and production. I understand how important words are. So you could tell when Haberstroh is talking about Michael Jordan, when they're asking him, to tell us what did you see about Jordan as a defender, because it's not just about steals, right? And he's saying, well, oh yeah, he was a great defender. He was out of this world, blah, blah, blah. Cool. But listen to the verbiage that he used. Oh, he gambled a lot. And when it worked, it was great. So that is a way of sending a backhanded compliment, right? So you're saying he gambled a lot. But what you're not really saying is he was elite enough physically that he could play the passing lane, or he could come help side, and he could still get back to his guy in the event that he was off or a second late or it didn't work out. That's what you need to be saying. But instead, you're trying to say, well, he gambled a lot, and when it worked, it was great. But when it didn't, it kind of wasn't good for the defense. But we haven't heard any coaches or anybody complaining about that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. No, definitely. I heard that it's that serious. Yep. If you go further in the segment, they were discrediting Russell and Wilt. Yeah. So he being Tom Haberstroh speaks to, and it's in the article if you guys want to read it. I suggest, because it's 6,000 words, copy the article and put it into an online reader that will read it to you, because 6,000 words, it'd take you forever. I love to read, but that's a long one. But anyway, later in the article, he talks about longtime NBA scribe, Hall of Fame contributor to the NBA, Bob Ryan, who wrote for the Boston Globe for like 50 years. And he talks about how back in the day, there was a lot of concern about stats being padded in terms of the rebounds of Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell. But again, that's more. Great point. It's not that serious. If you work for LeBron, how are you going to be objective? You can't. You just can't. Okay, so next point. Where were we? So we heard about the verbiage and how Tom Haberstroh, for a writer, is trying to be slick with words, thinking other people aren't going to catch that. Guess what, Tom Haberstroh? I'm a writer too. Okay, I caught it. Okay. Next. He says how and this is kind of a continuation of the whole gamble thing, how he says that it would compromise the defense. And I'm like, how? Right? So we know that at the time of his retirement, he was the all-time leading shot blocker among guards. He's still top 10 in steals. How was he compromising the defense? Clearly he wasn't, right? Because he made so many great plays. Yeah, he made so many great plays. So there's that. And then we heard him also talk about how he was so amazed, like 10 steals. Yeah, can you believe it? Yes, I can believe it. A lot of guys throughout the NBA history have gotten 10 steals in a game. Let me name two of them for you. Hakeem the Dream Olajuwon and the Admiral David Robinson. And those guys were centers. So let's not act like it's so inconceivable that a guard with elite physical tools, explosiveness, a guy who ran 4.3, right? Sub 4.4 40 time at 6'6", and we know had the highest vertical on record, right? For the NBA. Obviously, they didn't measure Wilt's vertical, but Michael Jordan has the highest vertical on record, and he's a sub 4.4 guy. Why are we acting like it's so inconceivable that he couldn't get 10 steals? When we see two centers, we know for sure got 10 steals in a game. Come on, man. We got to stop this. We've got to stop this. We know what they are doing. We know what they're attempting to do. Gee, any pushback on anything that I brought up there in terms of my commentary on Tom Haberstroh's words?
No, the only thing I'd like to add is when you look at just steals and they highlight the steals, right? Like it's more to the game than just stealing the ball.
Yeah.
Are you taking into account how many turnovers you forced, right? Like, how did he lock down his player? Did he force him to pass the ball off? Like, there's so much that go on in defense, and that award to just, discredit steals I think that doesn't do anything. That's not going to do it for me. Yeah, because back then, like, watching Mike play, man, he played high intensity. He took pride in playing defense. I mean, he even like released a few defensive videos, right? He was selling videos as well on how proper way to play defense. So you actually have a teacher, an instructor, I should say, in basketball that you grew up watching, and he's showing you the right way to play defense. You see the man in the ball at all times. Those types of things that your coaches started echoing, later on in like high school and college, you started seeing like, damn, all right, Mike was already playing and teaching this. And you can see about it how well these guys defend. I mean, you talking about they went 70, was it 72 and 10 or something like that?
72 and 10, yeah, in the 90s.
72 and 10. Hey, there's no way you do that just playing offense, man. Like there's no way. So yeah, that's bogus, man. These guys are bogus.
Yeah, it's just so amazing that they have to go through all these machinations and try all of this and do all of this to discredit Jordan because their guy's work doesn't stand on its own. I keep getting back to that because I don't understand it. But here's the other part, right, that we're not even thinking about. Now we're going to see guys who have axes to grind and issues with Michael Jordan. They're going to be coming out with their nonsensical takes. For instance, we see his former running mate. If you're listening now, appreciate you sending me this. And this was sent to me by a guy I went to J school with. He sent it to me earlier. And we got Scottie Pippen now coming with nonsense, right? Say I deflected the ball and I tapped it over to MJ. I should get the credit with the steal, right? Nope. More often than not, the steal went into his column in the stat sheet, and I could do nothing about it. One night, a scorekeeper came into the locker room to hand the stat sheets to Phil Jackson. I couldn't believe the look the guy gave Michael. See, MJ, we took care of you. Now, I'm not saying that didn't happen. I'm not saying that. What I am, however, saying is when you're dealing with Scottie Pippen and he's talking about Michael Jordan, we really can't take anything that he says for gospel, because if you go back on this channel, I did shows where I exposed Scottie Pippen for saying all these different things that keep changing, right? And so it's problematic for me to listen and take anything seriously that this dude says. And I guarantee you, but I would assume that Isaiah Thomas shortly enough is going to come out with some commentary as well, knowing that he's got an axe to grind with Michael Jordan. I've also done shows on him talking about how, as great a player as he was, he needs to stop this because he keeps changing and going all over the place with what he has to say about Michael Jordan. And unfortunately, we know that part of that is, in relation to his personal issues with Mike. And so all this, man, all this is just, it's so crazy to me. I can't believe it. And again, back to an earlier point that I made, if juicing the stats in this era was such a big deal, why are they not going back and looking at Mark Eaton, who averaged 5.6 blocks per game? Why are they not going back and looking at John Stockton, who they say they juiced up the assists for him, right? Because here's something to think about. When it comes to John Stockton, even if they were cheating the assists, right? If they took 1,000 assists away from John Stockton, he'd still be 2,000 assists ahead of the next closest guy, right? So let's just say hypothetically that, to your point, G, they're trying to take stuff away from Jordan. It doesn't matter because he's still an elite, probably top 3 or 4 defender of all time, and we know he's the number 1 offensive player of all time. It's a fair thing that he's the greatest player of all time. Most people still think that. So even if you say, okay, let's take, and that's what we heard what's his name, Ephraim Salam saying, if you go and you move all the trophies aside and you pluck that one out, does it change anything? And it doesn't. But they're so freaking desperate to try to do something here. It's crazy, man. Down, what's good, my G? Clutch Sports is hard at work. They really are. They really are. It is absurd what they're doing. It's absurd what they're doing. And to that point, it wouldn't change anything, even if they took that defensive player away. But what they're trying to do is find every possible way that they can degrade and denigrate Michael Jordan and his legacy. And what they're not realizing, I've said this time and time again, in doing that, all you're doing is showing that your guy cannot stand up on his own. That's all there is to it. His work doesn't stand on its own, nor does he. It's plain and simple. No, that's a great point. There's never a cogent argument against MJ, and there's never a cogent argument for LeBron. That's true. That is true. And I think it's not that serious. You were the one who said this a couple weeks ago when I did that show, really breaking down everybody from teammates to media members suddenly telling the truth about LeBron, when you said, isn't it interesting how all of a sudden when they're telling the truth about LeBron, they start making sense? But it doesn't make any sense when they're trying desperately to defend this dude and lift him up over Michael Jordan. G, you want to go ahead and last comments before we go ahead and open up the phone line? Because I'm hoping this one is going to have
when did LeBron? Okay, so I'm gonna back up. Like, so
Yeah.
what I'm starting to see now is LeBron is a newer style player, right? We never seen a player with his skill set, so to speak, right? Total package 6'8", 280, something like that. And so we never seen a player with his skill set, say with a pad, put the stats together the way he's doing it.
Correct.
But when did he come? When did he surpass Kobe? Is the question, right? Like,
Man,
when did he surpass Kobe? I know that's a whole nother. But I mean, it makes everything else moot, right? Like, if he never passed Kobe in a lot of people's eyes, then how is he able to throw rocks at the throne right now?
And so that's the other problem. But as we know, there's been a concerted effort as well to try and disregard Kobe and kind of push him out of the way and get to a point where we can make LeBron the guy, right? Because obviously Kobe's not here anymore. God bless the dead. So that makes it even easier to push him to the side. But even before, my thought was always, as great as Kobe was, that Eagle Colorado really, really hurt him. And I think that the league was afraid by lifting Kobe up that they would be put in a position where they would get attacked by a certain segment of the population, right? At the end of the day, though, Kobe, his talent and his work ethic was so mercurial that there was nothing that you could do to try and keep him down because he was that good and he worked that hard as a player. Because think about this. We remember even when he would be in Colorado going to court, and then he'd come back, he'd fly the private plane back, and he'd score like 40 points that night. You know what I'm saying?
Those are like 9 40-point games, and
yeah,
it was crazy.
Right. So he'd come back. I think, wasn't he in the playoffs? I think they were in the middle of a playoff run during that whole thing. So he's going to court in Colorado during the day, hopping on the private jet, coming back and playing, which obviously we know that would never fly now. He'd be on, whatever the NBA equivalent of the commissioner's exempt list is. And of course, the Lakers would get fried terribly if they gave him the private jet to go to a criminal trial for, sexual assault. which in no way we are advocating. We are in no way here at the Format Podcast advocating any form of sexual misconduct. Let me make that clear. Now, that said, Kobe was able to overcome that because of his dedication to his craft and his greatness on the court. Didn't happen right away, but it happened over time. But I truly believe that is one of the biggest things that allowed LeBron to kind of step in and bypass Kobe. That's what I think.
He's not guilty, right?
Yes. No, well, not guilty. He settled. He settled. So, however you want to take that. But again, totally different story. But yeah, I think that the whole Kobe thing, I don't think he ever bypassed Kobe. And see, people are gonna say, "Well, look at the stats." At the end of the day, man, stats are one thing, context is another. Your eyes are the third, man. Like when people who say LeBron is better than Kobe, like, do they actually watch? Like, did they really watch Kobe play? Probably not. But they've watched LeBron play, and they have been conditioned constantly by the NBA media and the sports media on the whole with the narratives that they're hearing, right? So, that is what it is. All right, you ready to open up these phone lines, bro?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. No comments.
All right, let's do it. Listen, y'all know the number, 904-219-8264. I want to hear from you. Let's go. Yeah, man, it's that whole when did he bypass Kobe? That's a whole nother thing, and it's so amazing to me that they can continue to push that false narrative that he's better than Kobe. But again, they're gonna say, well, he's 16-6 all time in his career against Kobe, and blah blah blah. And I get it, and he's got the stats, and I get it, but use your eyes, man. Use your eyes.
Yeah, it's kind of like that thing, right? Like where you see people who watch. I was telling you earlier, right? You got people that watch boxing, right? And then you got people who follow boxing.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
It's different when you following it versus you actually watching a player play. It's a little different. There's certain things that you want to see and you listen for. Yeah. Right.
Tim D, Kobe, Magic, Kareem, Russell far better than LeBron. This is if you want to do the super team argument. Yeah, fair enough. Wow, no calls on this? 904-219-8264. 904-219-8264. Definitely thought that we were gonna get some feedback on this. Sneed, I know you said you wanted to call in. Definitely would love to hear from you. It's not that serious. I know you said you had something to say about this. Nino, you're usually a good caller. Right here. we're gonna give this a couple minutes before we move on to the next topic, man, because I really want to get some feedback on this, and hopefully we can do that before we move on, and we don't want to be stuck starting the next topic and then having to go back to this. So we'll hold off a couple minutes.
Kobe not guilty.
What do we got here? Oh my gosh. Whoa. Okay. Bang Sports and Entertainment. Good to see you. Appreciate you checking in, man. Thank you. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. And make sure y'all hit that share button too, man. Get the channel out to more people. A lot of good content on here. Me and my brother, we do our thing here. Bron's just simply better. All right. Banging Sports Entertainment. You see the number on the bottom of the screen. I'd love to hear from you so you could tell us why LeBron is better. Nino, what's good, man?
Man, I heard too much blasphemy going on.
Man, let me hear what you got. What you got, Nino? Man? What you got, man?
Listen, I blame all the MJ fans. You know why?
Why?
The MJ fans never felt that pressure. This debate goes to show me that LeBron is in the GOAT debate.
He is not, but go ahead.
I take the GOAT debate as it's more fan, it's more your personal. It's not realistic, really, but this is what we love to do.
That's true. Antoine, call me back. Let me get finished with this call, and then we'll get back to you. Call me back, Antoine. Yeah, my bad. Go ahead, Nino.
This is not tennis or golf. This is basketball. It's a team game. So the GOAT debate. And I'm saying that MJ fans started the discredit first. MJ got the same fans Bron got. Is why I say the GOAT debate is real. Kobe ain't got these type of fans. Kareem don't got these kind of fans. Magic got these type of fans. Nobody discredited Kareem. He had one move. Well, Kareem could play ball too, but he had a go-to move. And I think people, you see it in the comments. They holding against LeBron because he scored in the paint. What kind of scoring the basketball is scoring the basketball?
All right, can I stop you on that though?
Get in there.
All right, so check this. I understand why they're saying what they're saying about LeBron scoring in the paint. Scoring the basketball is scoring the basketball. However, okay, let's say this. Here's an analogy, right? If I have to run 2 miles and you have to run 2 miles, right? I run it 2 miles and I run it in 16 minutes, right? That was about my time when I was running 2 miles regularly. So I run it 2 miles in 16 minutes. Cool. And then Nino comes along and Nino runs the 2 miles, but he runs it in 10 minutes. I'm like, damn, that boy Nino fast, man. He just smoked me. He ran it 2 miles in 10 minutes. But let's just say when I ran the 2 miles, I ran it uphill. You ran it on a flat course. How much faster are you really than me?
Not that much. What you get? What you get? That's what you trying to say. I see what you saying.
Okay, cool. So
I'm about to.
Right. So
talk to me.
Right.
Talk
so
to
this
me.
is where this goes. Right. So when Michael Jordan played, there was hand checking. When Michael Jordan played, the game was more physical. When Michael Jordan played, he played against 5 of the top 10 all-time shot blockers. When Michael Jordan played, there were real power forwards. They were shooting less threes. So the paint was more packed, right? And so Michael Jordan was doing all of this against what? A greater level of difficulty, right?
Now hold on. Can I step in on this?
Absolutely. Go ahead, brother.
Okay. Now on this one point, these people love to make.
Mm-hmm.
I went back and watched them like, because now people take this as we saying. See, this is what I'm saying. Y'all be talking like LeBron. So I don't want nobody in the world to think. I think MJ sucks back in basketball. MJ is the man. He who LeBron watched. All these he couldn't go left and he didn't play defense. That ain't even worth discussing. That's what I want. And I'm a LeBron fan. That ain't worth discussing. But in MJ era, Phil found the triangle. The triangle was moving pieces. Phil found a way to move. The big got the paint. Throw the ball in to MJ. Okay, now when you watch basketball in the 90s, was there a such thing as illegal defense? You could not tag off of your man like you do now and play like a zone. You had to be within a certain perimeter of your man. I went back and watched the Jazz.
That's cool. Go.
Is that a fact?
Go. Yes, technically. Go on YouTube. There's plenty of videos showing that Michael Jordan did actually face illegal defense. And you'll see, face zone defense. They just got away with it. And if you Google it, you'll see there's articles written on it. But go ahead.
And I seen in the finals against the Jazz, they called it a lot, which it was the defense. So, and then the next point is people act like LeBron. Well, LeBron is one of the most amazing athletes of his time. Now you're gonna appreciate this.
Yes.
If you do the combine, LeBron was not more athletic than Michael Jordan in his day. Who got the higher jumping? Jordan compared to the people he played against was miles away. Even if he played today era, he'll still be one of the most physical athletes it is. At 6'6". There was nobody that had the skill set almost compared to Jordan. So what I'm saying is LeBron and Kobe then watch Jordan. They got Jordan. They want to be Jordan. Y'all say they ain't Jordan. They watching Magic. They skill. They worked on this stuff. They want to be Jordan. But y'all telling me it was harder in big man basketball when it was only one MJ. How is it harder when Jordan had nobody that could do what he do or come close to it?
So I just explained to you when in terms of the scoring, it was harder to score. For instance, okay, check this out, right? When I don't know if you heard me say this on the show before. James Harden, 5-6 years ago, averaged 36 a game, right? I think I'm right on that, right, G? Yeah. I don't know how long when he was in Houston, right? So let's say 8 years ago, he was in his physical prime. He averaged 36 a game, right? James Harden averaged 13 3-point attempts per game during that season, right? And he he made about 4.5 of them, right? About 37%. Okay, average 36 a game. And we had people in the sports media telling us that James Harden was the greatest perimeter scorer of all time. So that includes all the guards. Okay, cool. Now, Michael Jordan averaged 37 points per game in, I want to say, the 87 season, right? 37 points per game. Do you know how many three-pointers he made that entire season? Take a guess.
Probably 1, 2. They didn't shoot threes then.
12. But yes, you answered the question, right? You answered the question. They didn't shoot threes then. So he's playing in an era where you got to get to the rim or shoot the mid-range, which analytics tell you is a more difficult shot. He's playing in that era, right? And so he's dealing with that. He's dealing, like I said, with packed paints. He's going to the rim. You got guys like Olajuwon there. You got Kareem there. You got Mark Eaton, who I mentioned earlier, who still has the NBA record for highest block shots per game average in the season at 5.6. So Kareem, Mark Eaton, Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson. Later in the early 90s, in comes Alonzo Mourning, in comes Shaquille O'Neal, right? Mount Mutombo, right? That's 7 guys all in the top 10 all-time NBA shot blockers. Michael Jordan had to deal with all of them. Who is in the top 10 NBA shot blockers that LeBron had to deal with in their prime? I'll wait.
But it ain't about shot block. It's not about shot blocking to me. Jordan, when Jordan won, like in the finals, Jazz, he didn't play against all them good shot blockers, and he was shooting jumpers mid-range. He was playing in the system in his game. So nobody. Well, I'm saying nobody else. Okay, you say that. Who could score? I'm gonna say nobody though, because I don't think Bron played against just valid shot blockers. I'm gonna answer the question because I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who did Jordan play that could score like Steph Curry and Kevin Durant?
Okay, so different era, but I got you. Who did Jordan play that could score like Kevin Durant? Karl Malone, who was just until last year the number 2 scorer all time in NBA history, right? Clyde Drexler, who when Michael Jordan played against him, stop. Hold on. When Michael Jordan played against Clyde Drexler in the finals, Clyde Drexler was one of the top scorers in the NBA. I think Clyde Drexler's career high scoring average is like 29 a game. So that tells you he was an elite scorer before he got old, right? Remember when, I don't know how old you are, Nino, but when the Blazers played against the Bulls in the finals in 92, there was a legitimate question at the time. People were asking who's better, Clyde Drexler or Michael Jordan. That's part of the reason Michael Jordan went off like that, because he was like, yo, I'm not trying to hear this.
They were asking foolishness.
I'm going to destroy this dude.
That was foolishness. There wasn't no, like Charles Barkley.
Right.
Can you really compare Charles Barkley to Michael Jackson? Michael Jordan?
No, you can't, but Charles Barkley was killing that year, right? So that year, he was a monster. See, but people want to, they don't look back and truly do the study. Native Texan, what's good, my man? Good to see you in here. Good to see you. Trying to set up something Native Texan that you'll enjoy on the college football piece, man. I'll definitely let you know when that's gonna happen. But anyway, yeah, Nino, the reason I was bringing up all the top 10 shot blockers is because one of the earlier things that you mentioned was people in the chat were saying LeBron gets all his points in the paint, and I'm telling you, and that's when I first started with the running analogy, that it's so much easier for LeBron to get his points in the paint now than it was when Michael Jordan was getting his in the paint. That's also why I brought up James Harden shooting all those threes, right? I think he made over 350 threes that season, where he averaged 36 points per game. Michael Jordan averaged 37 and made 12 3-pointers. So I'm bringing all this stuff up to show you, yes, the game was different. Yes, you can't compare stats across eras, but it was a more difficult road for Michael Jordan. And that is why it's so phenomenal to see what he was able to do. And no, nobody's saying LeBron James is a bum, bro. Nobody's saying that. But to say that he is better or in the same argument with Michael Jordan is nonsensical. That's all. But let me go ahead and I got another caller. I know Antoine was trying to get in here and give his thoughts. Did you have anything else before I let you go?
I want you to do a segment on whenever you get time, if you don't mind, on finals competition.
Okay.
That's what y'all like to compare. MJ finals competition versus Bron.
You know what?
I appreciate it.
We could work that out, Nino. Man, thank you for calling. And but check this out too, though, right?
I just got one thing to say.
The thing about, oh, my bad. Go ahead, G.
No, go ahead, finish.
Okay, yeah. The thing I was gonna say when it comes to the finals competition, the thing about that is simply people look at it now and say, "Oh, how many Hall of Famers were on that team?" But back then, teams were built. Teams were built. See, people want to act like the Seattle Supersonics in 1996 weren't an outstanding team. Right back then, people had positions and people had roles. It wasn't just stacking up Hall of Famers. That 92-93 Phoenix Suns team that Michael Jordan played in the finals and averaged 41, that was an outstanding team. That Blazers team, outstanding team. And that's what people miss out because they're so used to the way teams are constructed now, just, try to get the most Hall of Fame talent. But G, go ahead. My bad, man.
No, I think so what we saying here is two different eras of the NBA. One where defense was probably one of the second most important stats in basketball. Now you're saying the NBA with an issue with players playing defense, right? But even with that issue of players having issue, even with the NBA having an issue with players playing defense, right? There's still no Defensive Player of the Year awards for LeBron, right? But if you go back and look, you'll see like this isn't something that just start happening overnight. Like I forget if I was talking to you or someone else, but we saw like the increase in scoring where they wanted to score more, right? And what that did, now we have all-star game where nobody's playing defense, nobody's getting back on. I think we had a segment about this a couple of weeks ago, maybe last week, where we talked about them not playing defense. It should be easy for LeBron to get Defensive Player of the Year award every year because nobody's doing it.
Right.
That's my 2 cents.
Appreciate it. Antoine, what's up, brother?
How's it going, man?
Going well, man. Going well. You can see, obviously, it's a heated discussion.
Yeah, I listened to your segment, Nina, and I'm gonna leave some of that alone. I'm gonna give you an analogy. I'm not gonna be overt with it, but you'll understand where I'm coming from.
Okay.
Like today, we live in a world where you have to suspend your belief in what is actually real.
Mm-hmm.
People they want you to confirm what they feel versus what reality is. And I'll leave that there.
Okay. I got you.
Yeah. And so, in a weird way, that's kind of the way sports are today. We have to discount all these different things that's going on today with all the advantages that these players have today. It's weird to me that these players today get credited with so much when they get paid more for doing less.
Mm-hmm.
It must be bigger, faster, stronger, but yet they're easily injured playing less games.
Right.
And for me, they want me to ignore that because they're supposed to have better medicine and better technology. But all I see physically and tangibly that they're doing less.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they do this challenge about Michael Jordan and his GOAT debate and LeBron and his GOAT debate, to me, and I'm not doing a hot take or anything like that. I mean this when I say it. Putting LeBron in the GOAT debate is insulting to basketball on its face. Because there's so many great players that have accomplished more than what he has done, whether it's media bestowed award or even championships that went through the gauntlet of things to accomplish what they had with lesser help. So when you put the greatest of all time, MJ versus LeBron, as long as MJ played, he had 35 All-Stars in his entire career.
Right.
LeBron has 118 and counting. So it's like it's nonsensical, it's ignorant for this debate to even happen. They want to go with the whole quote-unquote longevity stat. But even if you talk about him scoring the most points, because they do use terms to make it sound different than what it actually is.
Right.
Yes, he has scored the most points in NBA history.
No question.
Excuse me. When he broke Kareem's record, you can do achievement every point he scored after that. He's the first person to score 38,000 points, 39,000. You can do that endlessly if you want go that route.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at it from an integral standpoint, what his accomplishments, those milestones, what did he get from that? It wasn't a championship. It wasn't a scoring title. It wasn't a defensive title. It wasn't an assist. It was none of those things. All his quote unquote milestones was always in a loss. So when you look at the substance of what he accomplished, it's a joke. Then the fact that you actually know, we all know that he has media members that he is on his actual page. It's like, what are we talking about here?
Mm-hmm.
It's an insult to what the game is today. I remember your segment about the All-Star game.
Mm-hmm.
All the failures of today's game has LeBron's name and actions attached to it. And for those of us who are curious about the game, we see that and we won't let it go.
Mm-hmm.
All these weak arguments about what he's done or what he has accomplished, and you can't. And you've seen some of the posts I put. You can't give a cogent argument about what he accomplished. And when I look back at when he lost with Miami and how bad he played, they downgraded that. They tried to overlook it.
Yeah.
It was abysmal.
Yeah.
It was one game where Dwayne had like 4 blocks. He's blocking power forwards and centers, and LeBron was standing there literally on the court biting his nail. And you want to call this dude the greatest of all time when he is one of the weakest-minded individuals who is called a superstar to ever play the game. This is insulting to intelligence anybody that loves this game and watch it in a genuine way.
Hey, listen here. Watch your mouth, Antoine, because no player has ever been able to drink wine on the sideline like LeBron. So you stop it, man. You stop it.
Hey, man, I don't have much else to add because if we just go talk about the differences and the nuance of the game, man, your stream will be last for another 12 to 24 hours, man.
Nah, that's a fact.
But I just wanted to get that point out there.
I appreciate
what I observed and what I've seen, man. You have a great show, man, and keep it going, brother.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate the support, man. You have a good one.
No problem.
All right, we got more stuff coming, so don't roll on me. We're going to be here
for
a minute. All right, brother. There we go. Caller from Georgia, what's good? Who's this?
Yeah, man, this is Jay.
Jay, what's good, man? I see you in the chat. Thank you for calling.
This is the first time I ever had to call on one of these joints, man. You and other brothers on YouTube doing this, and I sit and I listen to this foolishness, and sometimes I'm stunned. Some of the stuff that I hear some of these clowns saying, because for a long time when this first started, I didn't even take it seriously.
Okay.
Because it's so clear that LeBron is nowhere near Jordan's level. I saw Michael Jordan.
Facts.
I saw Magic. I saw Larry.
Right.
Seen them all. Seen Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
Saw the second half of Kareem's career. I didn't see Wilt in those guys. So if Wilt is better than Jordan, okay.
Right.
I don't know. I didn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
But since 1984, there's nobody even really close to Michael Jordan.
Right.
And LeBron is so far below Jordan. I tried to ignore it for so long for that reason, because he doesn't have any of the.
I'm sorry. It's hard to ignore because you get so inundated with stuff over and over. It's not easy to ignore at all, man.
It's such nonsense. But some of the points I wanted to make that are just valid points is that, number one, when MJ came, our favorite players was Doc, the Iceman, Magic, Larry, Bird. I'm from New York, so Bernard King, you know. But we didn't try to tear down. When we saw Jordan was better, we didn't try to tear down any of these other guys.
Right.
We left Kareem alone. We left even Wilt, Doc, the Iceman, Magic, Larry. We left them alone. We didn't have to do that.
Right.
Jordan spoke for himself.
Correct.
We didn't have to tear down these dudes, man. Mike was so much better. I'm not saying so much better like that, but, you know, he was clearly better. We could see that. We didn't have to tear these dudes down. These guys coming at Mike the way they are, they're making LeBron look bad. Here's another thing I wanted to say. Why is LeBron wearing Mike's number now? If he's better and he's making his own legacy. Why did he change to number 2-3?
I think he's
That
wearing
wasn't
6
his
now,
number.
though, right? He's wearing 6 now, right?
Nah, he's wearing 23 last I saw.
Okay, he went back
in
to
the playoff.
23. Okay.
Yeah, he's wearing 2-3. How does that make sense? If you're supposed to be the guy you're taking down, why you switch to his number?
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah,
that's weak, bro. To me, I'm just saying. To me, that's weak.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna say. Some guy was saying, who did Jordan play against? Man, look, who could score? Somebody was saying, who did he play against? Who could score? First of all, Bernard King was one of the best scorers we ever saw before he got hurt.
Facts.
Larry Bird was there.
Yes.
Alex English was there.
Alex English,
Kareem
people don't know,
was
he
still
actually
there.
led the entire NBA in the decade of the 80s in scoring.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Alex English every year was up near the top. You had guys like Marcus Jordan. These guys don't know these people.
Right.
And then when you mention some of them, they say, oh, he was nobody. Why? Because you didn't hear of him?
Yeah.
No, these guys were all-time great players who, guess what? They played defense on every play.
Mm-hmm.
You don't see that no more. Just one last thing I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Look at, and this is what kills me too, when I bring this up, guys from this era, from this soft era, this Gen Z era, and some of the millennials too, but mostly Gen Z. They come with this nonsense about, well, all-star games don't count, so it don't matter. Bro, it does count. If you're talking about who's better, look at your all-star game.
Mm-hmm.
Go back. I'm saying to the Gen Z people, go back, look at the 1993 All-Star game, and look how those boys got down.
Is that when Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley was really going at it for position on the block?
I don't know if it was but that was right after. It was the year after the Dream Team.
Yes, that was.
Go back and watch.
That was that year. Yeah, I actually played a clip of that on the last episode that we did, I think last week. And the segment was, and you could go check it on the channel. The segment was Adam Silver has to do something to try and save the All-Star game. And yeah, we actually played that clip here on the show with Scottie Pippen and Charles Barkley, like literally, like really going hard, fighting for position on the low block during an All-Star game. So I totally get what you're saying. I feel you.
And it was a beautiful thing to watch that All-Star game and compared to these last couple All-Star games.
Mm-hmm.
And then these boys are saying, well, it don't matter because it's exhibition. Nah, bro, you take pride in what you do.
Right.
You take pride in what you do. And check this out. Those guys, when they play pickup games, they play hard. So what you mean? Why can't they play hard in the NBA, in the All-Star game then? It's just a different level of dedication, bro. That's all. So stop telling me these dudes are better now than they were. They are not better than they used to be.
Yeah.
They might be bigger. They have better nutrition. They have everyone has a personal doctor now.
Right.
What's the problem? How come you can't play 82 games then, or 80 games or 78 games? They're crying about this dude. Draymond Green was crying because they got to play 67 games.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, man.
Facts.
They used to automatically play 80 games every year or 78 games every year without a second thought and still excel on the highest level. So, that's all I want to say, bro. This stuff is just so ridiculous trying to take down Mike the way they are. They're making themselves look like females, to be honest. This is some corny stuff. It's like a female. We get in an argument with her, and she try to bring up old stuff and bring up, well, you did this. Look, deal with me how I am now. You know what I mean? Tell me what I'm doing now. Tell me what argument do you really have? Stop trying to go back and find some weak point that you think will bring me down. Come on, man. This is just corny. It's feminine. I'm tired of these dudes, man. They need to grow up and learn sports. They don't know sports, period. Not just NBA. You can tell the way they talk. They don't know sports, period, how it works. But that's all I want to say, man. Peace.
All right. Before you go, man, quick question for you. He left. I was gonna ask him how he found the channel. But listen, hey, I thank you so much, Jay, for calling in, man. I appreciate you. If you're new to the channel, you're hearing the chat, make sure you hit that like, hit that subscribe, hit that share button so you can share this channel out with other people who are sports fans and want to hear a different voice than a lot of what you hear in the mainstream sports media. All right. If anybody else wants to go ahead and give a call and give thoughts. Are there anybody who wants to call in and defend LeBron and tell me I'm wrong in how I'm seeing this, or defend Nick Wright and Tom Haberstroh on this topic? I would love to hear somebody who does not agree with me. If you agree with me, cool, you can still call, but I'd love to hear the opposing viewpoint. We're always here and we want to listen. G, what was your thoughts on the last call, man?
I thought he nailed it. I thought he hit all the points. It's a great calling.
Mm-hmm.
Did you take Snead? I think Snead was trying to get in as well.
I didn't see him call. I didn't see him call. So I know I saw it in the comments earlier. I was hoping he would call. Definitely wanted to hear from him. he's always very insightful. Okay. All right, appreciate you, man. Appreciate you. Good stuff. Yeah, we're here every Saturday night, man, and sometimes we do lives on Wednesday night as well. So make sure you got your alerts on so you can always know when we go live, because sometimes, as you can see, we come in hot. So we got a lot of good stuff on the channel. Make sure you go back and check that out, and anything you find that you enjoy, man, make sure you share that out to other sports fans. All right, looks like that's probably the last call on this topic. So that was a really good topic. Definitely enjoy. Nope, got another one. All right. Native Texan, what's good, my man?
Oh, I'm doing all right. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. Thank you for calling in. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I agree with you on what you're saying and defending Jordan, and I really agree with that last caller. I thought that was a great call. He kind of hit all the points I wanted to hit, but I was just going to say, I'm a big fan of LeBron, and I have been since he came into the league. I had his Sports Illustrated that they had with him coming out of Akron in high school, and I've followed him through his career. And one of the things that made me a fan of him, why I really liked him, is LeBron himself was a student of the game, and he had like respect for Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell and all the guys that came before him. And then like Mike Tyson, when he was training with Cus D'Amato, he had respect for like Sonny Liston and all the old guys and all the greats. And it's like the really great players and the really like transcendent athletes in sports, they have respect for the people that came before them. They don't try to tear them down. And like whenever LeBron fans or whatever try to like tear down Jordan to lift up LeBron, it doesn't reflect well. And I don't think LeBron would tear down Jordan himself. I don't think he would be agreeing with Nick Wright and those guys about that.
No, he would. He just doesn't want to say it publicly.
And just because a lot of players, they play the same sport, but the game's not the same. Like you said, the 90s NBA and the 80s NBA, it's still basketball, but it's not the same game as now, because the rules changed. It's like I would say Tom Brady was the I mean, I'm not going to take anything away from him. He has 7 rings. That's like most championships ever. That's more championships than my Cowboys have. He earned that title, but would he still have the same success if he played like in the 80s NFL or the 70s NFL? I mean, it's the same sport, but it's not the same game,
Yeah.
It's a different game. Would he have won 7 Super Bowls in the 80s, and that whenever they could give like concussion shots and they didn't throw flags for breathing on a quarterback, and he didn't have the tuck rule and all that, he may have won, more than Joe Montana in the 80s if he played during that era, but we don't know.
No, we don't.
But you have to, when you're talking about like you got like these younger generations, like the previous callers saying, want to tear down the old generations because all they know is what they've seen in their lives. They really haven't seen anything of the old game other than highlights. They don't really know how like it was played, and then they want to go back and just try to like tear down these old generations for no reason. They don't even know what they're talking about. I mean, I'm not even that old. I'm only 35, but I noticed on that TikTok trend a couple of years ago, like the 90s NBA is overrated, and they had all these guys trying to tear down. And I'm like, man, y'all don't know what y'all are talking about. They're like cherry picking these bloopers, and they're saying, see, they weren't even any good. We're like Steph Curry and LeBron and all the current players. They're better than all these old guys. You don't even need to like remember them because look, they're so bad. And it's like, man, y'all, this is really unnecessary. And it's what he said. It was like feminine energy. It's like this like pissy energy or whatever. They, you don't have to like tear down someone else for someone else to be great. You can give respect to the people who came before, and you can still acknowledge the greatness of current players. That's not saying Jordan's the GOAT. That's not like a knock on LeBron. It's not.
To them it is.
Great.
To them it is, right. So what I think is interesting to your point, I I don't think it's just his fans, right? I think he sits back and he secretly loves the way his fans act in this GOAT debate. And the reason I say that, right, when people talk to Michael Jordan about being the GOAT, he says, that's not fair. There's a lot of guys that could be in that discussion. I never had a chance to play against them. He always says that. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure Michael Jordan believes in his mind that anybody I play against, I'm better than them, right? He believes that. But he's never going to publicly say it. So when LeBron's fans and the media fanboys exactly are behaving this way, why is it that he doesn't come out and say, I'm sure he's asked about it. Why would he come out and say, oh, that one right there made me the greatest of all time? He said he's the GOAT multiple times, and then he does the fake crowning himself gesture and all that. Why doesn't he come out and say, well, listen, you guys know that Michael Jordan was my idol coming up playing basketball, and we all thought he was the greatest of all time. I would love to have had the opportunity to compete against him between the lines, but since I haven't had that opportunity, we'll never know. There's so many great players in the past that are a part of this game and this game's history that, I'll never know how I would have fared against them. Obviously, I'm confident, but I'll never truly know that. Why can't he just say that? Right?
Well, he should say that.
Right. But he can't,
I think.
because he won't, because he loves it.
Wow. Yeah.
Right?
It's an interesting discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Yeah, absolutely. Great discussion. You have anything else before I let you go?
No, I just wanted to give my 2 cents on that real quick. That's all.
All right, man. I appreciate you calling as always. Thanks so much.
All right, y'all take it easy. Bye.
All right, you have a good one. Okay. So, anybody else got any last calls on this topic? This has been a great one. And then we're gonna move on to the WNBA and Caitlin Clark, which I'm not gonna spend too much time on that, but there was definitely some things I wanted to say about that. G, you have anything else on this before we move on?
Nah, I think the general consensus was that this is a pissy energy, right? Pissy energy.
Yeah,
pissy energy
that's what
move,
somebody
like,
said in the chat. Yeah.
Kind of a.
There you go. I've never heard that term before. I've heard other terms. I've never heard pissy energy. That's a new one. I like it.
Yeah.
Next time you act up, G, I'm gonna tell you, chill with the pissy energy, bro.
No such thing over here.
I feel you, man.
Right. Funniest thing though I read was that the Celtics was talking about, and I know this is not a topic, it's a little off script, but the Celtics talking about drafting Bronny.
That was funny. Hold him hostage.
That's diabolical, man.
Bill Simmons a wild dude, man. That's all Bill Simmons. He's crazy. Oh man. Yeah, I thought that was hilarious as well, man. I thought that was great. All right. So let's go ahead and leave it right there, man. We got a lot of great feedback from you guys. I really appreciate it. A lot of great feedback in the chat, some great calls. But let's move on. That was a great freaking topic, man. I love it. All right. So next up, I believe that's me. Get on the mic for the symphony. I know I just dated myself, but that's all right. I think I listened to that song earlier today.